It's 1957 in Miami. Through the static of a busy air traffic control room, a voice breaks the silence on an operator's headset. It's a distress call. Weak, crackling, unmistakable. The voice on the other end identifies itself as Flight NC16002, a Douglas DC-3 passenger plane, originally carrying 134 people. The operators in the room go quiet. 9 years earlier, in 1948, that exact plane vanished without a trace over the Atlantic. The United States government spent $45 million scouring the ocean for it, finding nothing. A machine that had been missing for nearly a decade was somehow active again. The physical signal shouldn't have existed, and neither should the person sending it. After 9 years in the Atlantic, someone was still alive to pick up the microphone. Understanding how that signal reached Miami requires looking past the myths of the Bermuda Triangle. The answer to this mystery lies in a specific chain of terrestrial destruction and a rare alignment of cosmic weather. On the night of the disappearance in 1948, the plane was caught in a massive storm. But when it went down over an uncharted island, it didn't smash into the ground. Instead, the fuselage became suspended in the dense canopy of ancient trees, which caught the aircraft like a giant net. The impact spared their lives, but it left 134 people trapped on an island without a single river or stream. Survival meant their only source of hydration was the tropical rain, which they had to learn to harvest using broad leaves and debris before their bodies shut down. Their first victory over the environment came from a teenage boy. By angling the lenses of his eyeglasses, he focused the sunlight onto a pile of dry leaves, sparking the group's first fire. Surviving the drop from 8,000 feet was the easiest part. By building rain catchments and organizing teams to harvest food, these 134 passengers began the slow, grueling process of turning a crash site into a functional society. Over the first 2 years, they established a strict division of labor. Foraging teams learned which fruits were safe, while others ground pieces of plane wreckage against stones to fashion blades, hunting the island's aggressive wild boars. The desire to return home pushed them to take massive risks. They constructed a large boat from wood and salvaged metal, aiming for the open ocean. A sudden squall destroyed it, taking 16 lives. Morale dropped further when a foraging party ventured into an inland cave. There, resting beside a rusted piece of unrecognizable metal, they found a human skeleton. It was physical proof that they were not the first people to be permanently trapped here. As food resources dwindled and the reality of their isolation set in, the once unified group fractured. Hostility grew between those who wanted to keep trying to escape and those who believed the island would be their grave. This graph of the island's population shows the brutal reality of their timeline. Sickness, the boat disaster, and pure psychological despair steadily eroded their numbers over 7 years. By year 7, the population levels out at 82. 52 people had died, leaving behind a frail group of survivors who had largely given up on the outside world. The physical threat of the island was severe, but the psychological toll was worse. Without the belief that rescue was possible, the island had transformed into a tomb. In their 8th year, a cyclone shredded their shelters. Just as they were recovering, a violent earthquake tore through the jungle, uprooting trees and sending boulders crashing down the hillsides. But the tremors did something else. The massive plane wreckage shifted in the soil, lifting a section of the fuselage and exposing an intact cluster of radio wires that had been buried for years. An engineer named Arthur Vance noticed the exposed equipment. He gathered the battery connections and, for the first time in 9 years, managed to power the radio on. Vance sent a distress call, but the radio's power was incredibly weak. However, at that exact moment, 93 million miles away, the sun released a massive solar flare, triggering a geomagnetic storm on Earth. This diagram illustrates what happened next. The solar flare energized the ionosphere, allowing Vance's weak radio waves to skip across the atmosphere. They bounced thousands of miles further than normal, landing directly in the headsets of the Miami air traffic controllers. The 1957 Mayday was the result of 2 independent variables: a terrestrial earthquake shifting the wreckage, and a cosmic storm amplifying the signal. Without that exact timing, the transmission would have never left the island. Days later, the survivors spotted a United States Navy ship on the horizon. After 9 years of isolation and starvation, the 82 people standing on the beach were finally going home. Their return stunned a world that had long since written them off. By 1958, their harrowing experiences were documented in the book Lost in the Echo, detailing how they maintained a society for nearly a decade against impossible odds. The story of Flight NC-16002 is more than a piece of Bermuda Triangle lore. It is a record of 82 people who refused to succumb to the island, proving that when the human will is absolute, even the physical world might finally move to make a return possible.